Hush Hush is a visual novel scheduler type game from Sad Panda, the creators of Crush Crush, Blush Blush, and Cabin Fever, a game I talked about in one of my bad endings videos, and yeah, that one kind of sucks. But Hush Hush, in my opinion, is a fantastic game that I really liked and I want to recommend fully, even if it's not on sale. Now, I might be biased here as I've talked a lot about Crush Crush on this channel. It's my guilty pleasure game. It's really just Gooner junk food. It's a free-to-play dating sim that's basically just an idle clicker game that's just trying to get you to spend money. I personally really like it, just for what it is, especially since they just released a crab waifu, and you know I had to have that. It's been really hard to find crab girl gajinkas, they're mostly nightmare fuel. But anyway, Hush Hush is an entirely new experience featuring some of the characters from the series with a full narrative and a different protagonist. Now, my first pro tip if you want to play this game is that you absolutely do want to spring for the additional 18 plus DLC. It's well worth it. It includes all the H scenes in the game, and I really feel like it works well. It's handled really well, and frankly, it's romantic. It's not just coming out of nowhere. The game just doesn't feel the same without it. You want this, trust me. So the plot of the game is that your genderless blob character inexplicably wins an all-expenses-paid vacation for a month on an island that they don't remember applying for. Sort of like in Luigi's Mansion, if you know what I'm talking about. But on the plane ride to the island, you're isekai'd and taken to the goddess realm where you meet these two busty beauties, Copernicus and Thelema. They tell you that your journey here was no accident and that you're being sent here to alter fate. There are 5 main girls in the game that are, well, doomed. If nothing changes in their lives, these 5 girls will all expire by the end of the month, and it's up to you to change their fate. If even one of these girls expire, it's game over and you have to reload your save, which you'll be doing a lot, trust me. Thankfully, there's a lot of save states. Your only objective is to get close to them and protect them from harm. This could be from criminals, stalkers, or just nature itself. Saving them is your only objective, as romance and, boning them is secondary. But yeah, I boned every character in the game that you can bone, because why not? So the reason I call it a scheduler game is, for lack of a better term, it's similar to Tokimeki Memorial or Long Live the Queen. While yeah, there is, typical dialogue trees and options like in a visual novel, your gameplay revolves around you managing a schedule and keeping up with your finances and stats, and of course scheduling dates. Now, in my playthrough, I only had one instance in which I had 2 dates at the same time, and that was a problem, as you can't afford to miss any dates because you never know when these girls might be in danger and you have to be there to save them. But it's easy to get around this, just, make sure you're not scheduling them at the wrong times. As for the story, y'all know I don't like to spoil games. I'm not a game reviewer, I'm a game advertiser, but I want to tell you that at the end of this story, it might feel like it ends abruptly, but this is one of those games that you get the most out of playing through a few times. Trust me, you don't have to, but on your second playthrough, you'll get a lot more context. There's a bit of a mystery here and a bit of a conspiracy, but I'll invite you to check it out for yourself. It's actually pretty interesting. Now, before I go any further, I have to get through a few deal breakers out of the way. Now, let's all be adult here, shall we? I can see how some of this will turn some people off, and here's why. So for one, which is my biggest complaint personally, is that you play the genderless blob character. Everybody refers to you as them, they, which on its own, it's fine, it's no big deal, but it's just done lazily. It's under the guise of being inclusive, but really it's just to save time and to not have dialogue options for, he or her or whatever else. It gets really awkward during the adult scenes, and it's just implied that rather than full-on, penetration, you're just basically dry humping and practicing mutual autoeroticism, which just broke my immersion. I don't know, it feels like it wouldn't be asking too much to just have dialogue implying gender, or at least let me pick my own, but, whatever. The next deal breaker kinda is that this character, Eli, despite the fact that this game is sold to us as a waifu game, a waifu dating sim game, there's a biological male that, you can romance and bang. Now, let me be clear, there's nothing wrong with this. It's totally optional, and I really like this character, I really did. And yeah, I went all the way with them, fight me. But they themselves are pretty respectful of your boundaries and totally fine being friend zoned, so you never have to interact with them if you don't want to after you meet them. But I know some people will turn some people off. I just want to get out of the way. I don't want you to, I don't want you to give up this great experience just because of that. Other than dialogue options, you get skill checks for your stats. Similar to Fallout New Vegas, you have 10 stats and 10 possible jobs that can only be unlocked through having a high enough level in the appropriate stat, luck for poker, etc. My next pro tip is that money isn't as big of a deal in this game as you might think. Don't waste your time on these jobs that don't pay out over 700, as later on in the game you will need thousands of dollars, which is easily obtained through being a poker player or a model, which just depends on your luck or buff stat respectively. So don't waste your time on any of these other jobs, just get these two, trust me. You get 10 stats, 5 good karma and 5 bad karma. Karma in the game isn't that important, it just changes who congratulates you or who you bone at the end of the game, depending on if you got the 18 plus DLC. Bad karma stats are these below, which aren't required for most issues in the game, but they are a lot easier to pass in skill checks, which is the nature of the bad karma skills. It's easier to be bad than to be good. And also, by picking some of these bad options in some of these cases later on in the game, such as violence, it can lead you to specific bad endings if you're not careful. But for the most part, you're told what picking these options will lead to. You're not surprised by it. You can work on 2 stats a day, raising them by a total of 4 points, but your dark karma stats only once a day. But that won't be a problem at all, in my experience at least. My next pro tip is that while you don't want to ignore any of these stats, you really want to focus on buff and suave. Trust me on this. You'll want to get your suave over 60 by mid-game, and you'll want to get your buff stat over 60 by the end game. Otherwise, you'll be forced to use some negative karma skills, and if you don't have that raised, well, then you're doomed to have a bad ending and you'll have to load an earlier save, possibly several days back. Well, for the suave stat, I don't want to give it away, but you will thank me later. It opens up a lot more doors for you later on down the road. So for the day-to-day, it's just interacting with these characters and going on dates with them and outings. Although there are some events that allow you to raise your stats also, and some hidden events with these characters that you might bump into randomly. These characters are all great. I don't have any that I didn't like, except for Cassie at first because she's, kind of a bitch. And I ended up ignoring her and I got the earliest bad ending with her possible. It really frustrated me, but once you get to know her, you'll like her a lot too. Now, I've already said that the intimacy in this game is handled really well, and I still believe that, but it would be remiss of me not to mention some more downsides that made me feel, a bit uncomfortable. So as you all know, I'm an alcoholic and I've been sober 6 years. While drinking and drugging in video games, it's fine because it's all made up, it's handled pretty poorly in this game. You're pretty well forced to drink at several different times in the game. It's a lot of alcohol. So on top of the 5 main girls, there are other romanceable options such as Bonnie Belle and Fumi. Outside of these are 2 NPCs. You bump into them pretty early on and are invited into a 3-way with them while getting high on Molly. Now, there's no negative consequence for doing this as far as I could tell. So, obviously I smashed. Why wouldn't I? But later on in the game, you meet these characters again and it's implied it's your first meeting, as you're all introduced and you don't know each other. This could be implying that you suffered memory loss from all the drugs you used, which is just kind of awkward and just not cool, in my opinion. I wish they would have just owned it, like, hey, we boned the other day. So it's kind of goofy in that regard. Like I said, alcohol is big in this game, and several instances of intimacy are predicated by alcohol consumption. No, don't get me wrong. It's not done in a bad way. Your character's not, getting drunk on purpose. It just made me a bit uncomfortable. Finally, we have this character whose name is Elle. She's absolutely, she's got some, she's something. But Elle here tragically suffers from narcolepsy. It's so severe, in fact, that she can't drive or take baths on her own, as she might pass out and actually drown, which is just sad. She tells you that she dreams of having a partner one day to help her bathe comfortably with. It's pretty sweet and romantic. and she reveals to you that she's a virgin, the only virgin of the cast, and it seems that it's because of that reason. She doesn't want to pass out during sex and have bad things happen. At the end of her route, she falls in love with you, and even though she's scared, she trusts you enough and doesn't want her disability to hold her back. She wants to experience her first time with you, and she wants to give you her all, and she does just that. And she passes out right as it's about to begin, and during this time you actually have the option to go through her stuff and even rob her? Yeah, that's horrible. Golly, her worst fear, basically. But other than that, that's really all the complaints I have about this game. I love everything else about it. For the most part, it's really just a silly, goofy, yet somewhat wholesome and romantic game. I really grew to like all of these characters. They're all great, except for, the villain characters, of course. The cast in this game, for the most part, are just kind of vaguely aware of each other. They don't interact much, which I feel was a missed opportunity for some drama. The fact that you're essentially playing up to 8 people at the same time. Yet when they interact, they don't seem to mind much at all that you know all these girls, or Eli. They don't seem to mind so long as you end up with them in the end, which you don't have to. But yeah, this game isn't really that deep. You can do better, obviously. Katawa Shoujo remains free, and it's an emotional tearjerker. There's also Clanad, Narcissu. These are all much better games, and you don't have to shell out as much, except for Clanad. But I don't know, I just really don't want this game slept on. I really liked it for what it was, I had fun with it, and I really liked it. But of course, you know me, I don't do game reviews. So, what do I have to say at the end of this video? Well, in conclusion...
I spanked my monkey.
That's not a crime.
It's not?